Before we dive into today's story, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you even more powerful stories. Stick with us till the very end. And if this story moves you, share your thoughts in the comments and send it to a friend who needs to hear it. Now, let's begin. The invitation arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon inside an elegant, cream-colored envelope with gold lettering. Even before Elena Brooks opened it, she knew it had come from her older sister. Everything Monica Brooks did had to look expensive, even when it wasn't. Elena carefully unfolded the thick card while standing inside her modest apartment near the waterfront in Jacksonville. The invitation announced a grand celebration for Margaret Brooks' 75th birthday, a 7-day Mediterranean cruise aboard the luxury ship Ocean Majesty, sailing from Genoa, Italy. The words were beautiful, promising gourmet dining, breathtaking sunsets, live entertainment, and unforgettable family memories. Tucked inside was a handwritten note from Monica. "Elena, we booked you the smallest inside cabin on deck 2. It's the only room we could manage after paying for Mom's suite. Don't worry about helping with expenses. Just be grateful you can come." Elena smiled quietly instead of feeling offended. She folded the note and slipped it back into the envelope. "They really have no idea," she whispered to herself. Her apartment was simple, her clothes ordinary, and her neighbors believed she worked long hours in maritime logistics. No one around her knew the truth, and neither did her own family. For years, she had allowed them to believe she was simply another hard-working employee in the shipping industry. They had never bothered to ask more questions. Instead, they created their own story about her life. Elena walked toward the window overlooking the harbor, where several large ships rested beneath the gray sky. She looked at the sea and smiled softly. "This birthday cruise might become one they'll never forget," she said before placing the invitation on the kitchen table. Only a few minutes later, Elena's phone vibrated nonstop as messages flooded the family group chat. Monica had already taken charge of every detail, just as she always did. "Everyone, please remember this is a luxury vacation," Monica wrote. "Pack elegant clothes. Don't embarrass Mom. Wealthy people travel on cruises like this." Her younger brother, Ethan, immediately replied, "Already bought 2 tuxedos. I hear business owners and celebrities sail on ships like these. Maybe I'll make useful connections." Their mother answered with cheerful excitement, "My 75th birthday is going to be magical. Thank you, Monica and Ethan. I've dreamed about a Mediterranean cruise my entire life." A few seconds later, another message appeared. "Elena, sweetheart, don't worry about your little cabin. At least you're joining us. We know things have been difficult for you." Elena stared at the screen before typing only 4 simple words. "I'll see everyone there." Monica answered almost instantly. "Do you even own a formal dress? I have an old evening gown you could borrow if needed." Elena smiled to herself again. "Thank you, but I'll be fine," she replied. Monica sent a laughing emoji. "Just don't wear those bargain store clothes." Elena placed the phone face down without responding again. Outside, cargo vessels slowly crossed the harbor while gulls circled overhead. She had spent the last decade building one of the world's fastest-growing luxury cruise companies. Her days were filled with meetings about billion-dollar expansions, international ports, environmental technology, and guest experiences. Yet, her family still imagined she struggled to pay rent every month. They had never visited her office. They had ignored every invitation she had ever sent. Even when newspapers featured her achievements, none of them noticed. Eventually, she stopped trying to explain. If they preferred assumptions over curiosity, she let them keep believing their own version of reality. Years earlier, Elena had dropped out of graduate school after purchasing one aging sightseeing boat with every dollar she had managed to save. Her relatives had called the decision foolish. Monica insisted she was throwing away her future. Ethan laughed openly, saying nobody became successful by cleaning boats and entertaining tourists. Even Margaret, although less harsh, quietly admitted she wished Elena had chosen a respectable profession. Their words hurt, but they also fueled her determination. Elena repaired the old vessel herself, learning everything from engines to customer service. Tourists loved the personal attention she gave every guest, and within 2 years she owned 6 excursion boats. She reinvested every dollar instead of spending money on luxury homes or expensive cars. Eventually those boats became coastal cruises, then international voyages, and finally a global cruise company called Blue Horizon Voyages. By the age of 32, Elena controlled 13 luxury cruise ships sailing across Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. The company's newest masterpiece was the magnificent Ocean Majesty, a floating city designed with her own ideas about elegance, comfort, and unforgettable travel. Financial magazines praised her as one of the youngest self-made billionaires in maritime history. Television interviews requested her appearance almost weekly. She politely declined most of them because she preferred building ships instead of chasing publicity. Every achievement reminded her of something painful. Her family never celebrated any of it. Whenever she mentioned business, Monica quickly changed the conversation. When she mailed magazine articles featuring Blue Horizon Voyages, Ethan simply replied, "Still doing that boat business?" After enough disappointment, Elena quietly accepted that strangers knew more about her life than the people who shared her last name. The morning of departure arrived bright and warm in the beautiful Italian port of Genoa. Towering above every nearby vessel stood the magnificent Ocean Majesty, its polished white hull reflecting the sunlight like fresh snow. The ship stretched across the harbor with graceful elegance, surrounded by excited passengers taking photographs before boarding. Elena arrived alone carrying one small suitcase while wearing faded blue jeans, white sneakers, and a plain navy shirt. She preferred comfort over appearances. Across the terminal, her family had already gathered in colorful designer outfits, each one trying to look wealthier than the next. Monica spotted Elena immediately and sighed dramatically. "There she is," she announced. "I was beginning to think you'd missed your flight." Elena smiled warmly. "Good morning, everyone." Monica looked her up and down before shaking her head. "Please tell me you're changing clothes before dinner." Elena laughed softly. Eventually, Ethan walked over carrying expensive sunglasses in one hand. "You really don't understand luxury vacations, do you?" he joked. Their mother embraced Elena warmly before introducing her to several friends from her gardening club. "This is my youngest daughter," Margaret proudly said. "She works somewhere in shipping. It's not glamorous, but she's hardworking." One of the women smiled politely. "Well, everyone deserves a taste of luxury now and then." Elena thanked her kindly. She wasn't angry anymore. Their assumptions had become almost amusing. As photographers captured families boarding the impressive ship, Elena quietly admired the elegant balconies, sparkling glass walls, and sweeping curves she had personally approved during construction. Every detail carried part of her imagination, yet nobody beside her recognized that the beautiful vessel existed because of the quiet woman standing among them. Monica soon gathered everyone's boarding documents with the confidence of someone organizing a royal ceremony. "Listen carefully," she announced. "Mom has the presidential suite because this is her 75th birthday. Ethan and his wife have a deluxe balcony cabin. My husband and I booked a family suite. Elena." She paused while searching through the envelopes. "Here you are. Cabin 2146. Inside room. No window. It's close to the cruise service hallway, but at least it's quiet." Elena accepted the card with genuine gratitude. "Thank you for including me." Monica smiled proudly. "We didn't want you staying home just because cruises like this are beyond your budget." Margaret gently squeezed Elena's hand. "Sweetheart, don't feel embarrassed. Not everyone gets opportunities like this." Elena nodded politely. "I'm grateful to celebrate your birthday together." As they entered the terminal, The family admired every luxurious detail. Crystal chandeliers glittered above the grand entrance. Musicians performed soft classical melodies, while smiling crew members welcomed passengers with sparkling drinks. Ethan whistled in amazement. This place looks richer than most five-star hotels. Monica laughed excitedly. Imagine what the owner's suite must look like. Elena smiled without saying a word. She knew exactly what it looked like because she had personally redesigned it twice before the ship's launch. As the family stepped into the breathtaking central atrium, Margaret wiped away happy tears. "This is the most beautiful birthday gift I've ever received," she whispered. Monica proudly wrapped an arm around her mother's shoulders. "You deserve only the best." At that exact moment, the ship's announcement system chimed gently overhead. Crew members suddenly paused where they stood, smiling knowingly, while Elena quietly lifted her eyes toward the ceiling. She recognized the familiar voice that was about to speak, though her family had no idea that within the next few moments, every assumption they had held for years was about to collapse. The gentle chime echoed through the magnificent atrium, and conversation slowly faded into silence. Hundreds of passengers looked up toward the ceiling speakers as a calm, confident voice filled the ship. "Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard the Ocean Majesty. My name is Captain Marco Salazar, and on behalf of every officer and crew member, thank you for choosing Blue Horizon Voyages for your Mediterranean adventure." A wave of applause spread through the terminal. Margaret smiled brightly while Monica whispered, "Now this feels like a real luxury vacation." The captain continued, "Before we begin our mandatory safety briefing, I would like to recognize a very special guest who unexpectedly joined us earlier than planned. Every member of our crew is honored whenever our founder and chairwoman sails with us. Ms. Elena Brooks, thank you for trusting us with your vision once again. Your passion for excellence inspires every person wearing this uniform today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to meet Ms. Brooks during your voyage, please allow us to welcome one of the pioneers who transformed Blue Horizon Voyages into one of the world's most respected luxury cruise companies." Crew members throughout the atrium immediately turned toward Elena with warm smiles. Several quietly applauded. A few guests looked around curiously, wondering where the famous businesswoman was standing. Monica frowned in confusion before slowly looking at her younger sister. Ethan followed her gaze. Margaret blinked several times as though she had heard the wrong name. One of her gardening friends laughed softly. "Imagine that. The owner has the same name as your daughter." Elena simply stood there, calm and relaxed, her boarding card still resting in her hand. She gave a small smile before speaking in a gentle voice. "Actually, Captain Salazar was talking about me." The words hung in the air. Nobody in her family answered. It was as if the entire world had suddenly stopped moving, while every assumption they had ever made about Elena quietly shattered around them. Monica stared at Elena as though she had never seen her before. "That's impossible," she whispered. "You're joking." Elena slowly shook her head. "No, Monica, I'm not joking." Ethan quickly pulled out his phone and searched for Blue Horizon Voyages. Within seconds, photographs filled the screen. There was Elena standing beside newly launched cruise ships. Another picture showed her shaking hands with international business leaders. Another displayed her receiving an award for innovation in sustainable tourism. Ethan's face lost all its color. "Mom," he muttered while turning the screen toward Margaret. "Look." Margaret adjusted her glasses with trembling hands. The smiling woman on every news article was unmistakably her youngest daughter. Headlines praised Elena for building a billion-dollar company from almost nothing before turning 35. Monica reached for the phone herself, scrolling faster and faster. No, this can't be right." She looked at Elena again. "You've been on magazine covers. You spoke at international business conferences. They even interviewed you on television. Elena nodded quietly. Yes. Why didn't you tell us? Monica demanded. Elena looked directly into her sister's eyes. I did. Many times. Ethan lowered his head in embarrassment. When? Elena answered without raising her voice. 3 years ago, I invited everyone to the launch of this ship. You said you couldn't waste vacation time looking at boats. 2 years ago, I mailed each of you an article about our expansion into Asia. Nobody replied. Last Christmas, I asked if anyone wanted to visit my headquarters in Florida. Monica, you said office tours sounded boring. Silence followed every sentence. Margaret covered her mouth with both hands as tears slowly filled her eyes. For the first time in years, she realized she had spent more energy imagining her daughter's life than actually listening to it. Before anyone could speak again, a tall woman wearing an elegant navy uniform approached with several senior officers following behind her. Her gold name badge identified her as Natalie Romano, general manager. She smiled warmly at Elena before extending both hands. Ms. Brooks, what a wonderful surprise. We were expecting you after departure. Elena returned the handshake. I finished my meetings earlier than expected, so I decided to board with everyone else. Natalie nodded happily. Everything has been prepared exactly as you requested. Your private residence on Deck 14 is ready. We also arranged tomorrow's inspection schedule, although I hope you'll spend more time relaxing this trip. She then turned politely toward Margaret. You must be Mrs. Brooks. Happy 75th birthday. Ms. Brooks has instructed us to make this the most memorable celebration of your life. Margaret looked completely overwhelmed. She arranged all this? Natalie smiled. Months ago. Monica's eyes widened. Months ago. Natalie continued. She personally approved your birthday dinner, the live orchestra, the private fireworks display over the sea, and tomorrow's family excursion along the Italian coast. Ethan looked at his sister in disbelief. You plan Mom's birthday? Elena nodded gently. I wanted it to be special without making a big announcement. Natalie handed Elena a leather folder. These are today's operational reports. Also, the engineering team would appreciate your opinion on the new energy system whenever you're available. Elena accepted the folder naturally, as though discussing multi-million-dollar projects was an ordinary part of her afternoon. Margaret watched every exchange in stunned silence. The daughter she believed needed financial help was calmly giving instructions to executives who clearly respected every word she spoke. Suddenly, the expensive clothes, the fancy cabins, and every assumption her family had carried onto the ship seemed painfully meaningless. Natalie excused herself after wishing Margaret another happy birthday, leaving the family standing quietly beneath the enormous crystal chandelier. None of them knew what to say first. Finally, Margaret stepped closer to Elena with tears rolling down her cheeks. Sweetheart, she whispered, have I really been this blind? Elena looked at her mother with kindness instead of anger. You weren't blind, Mom. You simply stopped looking. Those words struck harder than any accusation. Monica slowly lowered the boarding envelope, still clutched in her hands. I honestly believed we were helping you, she admitted. Elena sighed softly. Did you ever ask if I needed help? Monica searched for an answer, but found none. Ethan finally spoke. We assumed. Elena nodded. Exactly. You assumed I couldn't afford nice things because I didn't care about showing them off. You assumed my apartment meant I wasn't successful. You assumed my old car meant I was struggling. She smiled gently. That car has over 200,000 miles because I love driving it. My apartment is 5 minutes from company headquarters. It makes my work easier. Margaret wiped away another tear. All these years, I thought you sacrificed your future. Elena shook her head. I was building it. Around them, passengers continued boarding, unaware that an ordinary-looking family was quietly facing years of regret. The conversations became softer, more honest, and far less comfortable than before. For the first time, Monica realized she knew almost nothing about the younger sister she had judged for more than a decade. A cheerful voice interrupted the emotional moment. "Ms. Brooks." A young crew member hurried over carrying a small velvet box. "Captain Salazar asked me to deliver this personally." Elena opened the box to reveal a beautifully engraved gold access card. "The bridge is ready whenever you are," the crew member said respectfully. "The captain would like you to oversee today's departure, just as you always do." Elena thanked him before slipping the card into her pocket. Monica looked at the unusual pass with amazement. "You can just walk onto the bridge?" Elena smiled. "Only when the captain invites me. I like watching every ship leave port. It reminds me why I started this company." She turned toward her family. "I have to meet the officers before we sail." Margaret reached for her daughter's hand. "Will we see you later?" Elena gently squeezed her mother's fingers. "Of course. Tonight we'll celebrate your birthday properly." Before leaving, she looked at Monica and Ethan. "This week doesn't have to be uncomfortable. It can be a new beginning if we let it." Neither sibling knew how to respond. They simply nodded. Elena walked toward a private elevator reserved for senior officers, escorted by 2 uniformed staff members. Every crew member she passed greeted her with genuine respect. Some thanked her for opportunities she had created for their families. Others smiled proudly as she remembered them by name. Margaret watched until the elevator doors quietly closed. She whispered to herself, "I spent years worrying that my daughter had failed when all along she was building dreams big enough to carry thousands of people across the sea." The ship's powerful horn sounded across the harbor, announcing the beginning of a voyage that would change far more than the course of the Ocean Majesty. It would change an entire family forever. The final evening of the voyage arrived with a golden sunset spreading across the calm Mediterranean Sea. Instead of hosting another extravagant dinner, Elena Brooks invited only her mother, Margaret, her sister Monica, and her brother Ethan to a quiet lounge overlooking the ocean. There were no reporters, no executives, and no crew members waiting for instructions. Just a family that had finally begun talking honestly. Margaret looked at her youngest daughter with eyes full of regret. "Elena," she said softly, "for years I believed success had only one shape. I thought a diploma, a title, and a traditional career were the only paths worth celebrating. Because of that, I never truly saw the incredible life you were building. I am deeply sorry." Monica lowered her head. "I judged you by your clothes, your apartment, and your old car. I never judged you by your character, your determination, or your heart. I was wrong." Ethan nodded. "I spent years making jokes about your boat business. Now I understand that those boats became opportunities for thousands of employees and unforgettable memories for millions of guests. I should have been proud of you from the beginning." Elena smiled warmly before answering. "I never wanted anyone to admire me because of money. Ships can be bought, companies can grow, and fortunes can disappear. What matters is whether the people you love care enough to know who you really are." Tears rolled down Margaret's face as she reached across the table and held her daughter's hands. "From today forward, I promise to ask to listen and to show up, not because you're successful, but because you're my daughter." Monica and Ethan made the same promise. Elena looked out across the endless sea and felt a peace she had not carried for many years. As the Ocean Majesty sailed beneath a sky filled with stars, she realized the greatest victory of her life was never building a fleet of luxury ships. It was helping her family discover that true success is measured not by wealth, appearances, or status, but by humility, perseverance, and the willingness to believe in someone before the whole world does. And with that lesson finally learned, the Brooks family sailed home together, not as strangers connected by blood, but as a family that had truly found one another at last. Like and subscribe to my channel for more contents like this, and let us know where you are watching from under the comment section.